All right, I see the Zoom room is starting to fill up with participants today. Go ahead and let us know who you are and where you're zooming in from. You can use the chat function at the bottom of your Zoom video window to let us know who you are and where you're zooming in from. Today's virtual speaker session is the impact of national girls and women in sports today. Our presenter is going to be Morett-Curtiss, legendary field hockey coach here at Penn State and an Olympic bronze medalist. We will be talking to her in just a minute. Thanks for zooming in. I see Andy from East Brunswick and Pete from Reading, Bonnie from New Jersey, Angel from Altoona. Welcome into the virtual speakers session. We'll be getting started in just a minute. Sarah from Shippensburg and Sue from Virginia, thanks for joining us. We will be getting started in just a minute or two. Let us know who you are and where you're zooming in from. Today's topic is the impact of National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Our guest is Morett-Curtiss, a three-time All-American here as a student athlete in both field hockey and lacrosse, and then legendary coach of our field hockey program for 36 years. She's also an Olympic bronze medalist. We'll be talking to her in just a minute or two. Thanks for joining us. I see Kelly from Pittsburgh and Sarah from Shippensburg, Marge from Wellsboro, Deborah from Manassas, Paula from Clinton, Maryland, Amy from Penn State Berks. Welcome to the virtual speaker series. Good afternoon, Penn Staters, and thank you for joining us. I'm Paul Clifford, CEO of the Penn State Alumni Association, and I'd like to welcome everybody to today's virtual speaker session titled The Impact of National Girls and Women in Sports Day. Live closed captions are available. You can access them by clicking the closed caption button at the bottom of the Zoom video window and then clicking Show Subtitle. Today's guest, Morett-Curtiss, was a three-time All-American with the Nittany Lions in both field hockey and lacrosse. As a coach, Shar led Penn State field hockey for 36 years, having compiled 541 victories, 8 Big Ten regular season titles, 7 Big Ten Coach of the Year honors, 30 NCAA tournament appearances, and 6 Final Four appearances. Shar retired as Penn State's head coach last year, but her commitment to Penn State was far, far from over. She is now serving as an advisor for Penn State Athletics and chair of Teammates for Life. Teammates for Life is a women's athletics initiative created to celebrate, elevate, and engage past, present, and future women student athletes at Penn State. Shar will lead the discussion on National Girls and Women in Sports Day, an annual observance to bring awareness to the accomplishments of female athletes. We'll look back to 1972 and the enactment of Title IX, when it was mandated that women be given the right to equal opportunity in sports and educational institutions where federal funding is being received. Penn State was one of the first universities to offer scholarships to women. Today, Penn State continues to support our female athletic teams at a high level. And while Title IX has been an important mandate, today there are still inequities. National Girls and Women in Sports Day gives us the opportunity to celebrate our growth and provide assessment of needed continued support. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome Morett-Curtiss to the virtual speaker series presented by the Penn State Alumni Association.
Oops. Can you see me?
We got you, Shar. Take it away.
I'm having trouble. Let me just Okay. Thank you, Paul. Welcome everybody to the Penn State, Alumni Association virtual speaker series that we have going on here today. I'm so excited to talk about something I'm so passionate about, and that is women's sports. I've been so blessed over my career and my lifetime to know and appreciate and be grateful for what Penn State athletics has done for me and women's sports in general. As Paul stated, I've had a history of success with sports from high school, going to Penn State and on to the Olympics. But today is a really big day all across the country. We're talking about celebrating, elevating, uplifting women's, female athletes all across the country. But what's important is that we continue to support these young female athletes all the time when they're like in elementary school, junior high, high school, into the college level. And now we can really talk about women that are competing on a professional level. I mean, everybody knows the name Caitlin Clark. What an ambassador she is for our women's programs here. Here across the country, she just is first class all the way. She has put women's basketball on major networks, and that's what we need our young girls to see. Athletes competing on the same big networks as the men have in the past. So really, National Girls Women's Sports Day was started in 1987. It was enacted by President Ronald Reagan, and he mandated that we're going to find this day every year to celebrate the achievements, the accomplishments, the successes of female athletes throughout our country. We've been really blessed here at Penn State because 1972, when Title IX was enacted, nobody was really twisting anybody's arms to make sure that universities and high schools were putting the same product out there for women as they have been for men. But Penn State was one of the very first universities to give female scholarships to our athletes that were at Penn State and also those who were incoming to Penn State. So they had the vision and they knew that it was the right thing to do to provide these opportunities for our female athletes here at Penn State. And I will have to say that our programs at Penn State, since that support has come into play really in 1974-75, our women's athletics programs have been one of the best in the country year after year. But we have to look at where can we still be better? Where can we leverage the success of our athletes that are having now? What we really need is those corporate sponsors. We need that visibility that we are getting, and we need people to simply come to games and make sure that you're cheering on your hometown girls. What we're doing also today with National Girls in Sports Day is here at Penn State, our teams the past week have brought athletes on campus to mentor them, to inspire them, to have the opportunities to play and compete as a female athlete at Penn State or for wherever they choose. When you look back as a female athlete and you look at our athletes now, back in the 70s, their opportunities to go into different professions were very, very limited. And that's really why this enactment in 1987 by Ronald Reagan, it was one of the senators, his name was, his name was Birch Bear. And what he was concerned about, that women weren't being accepted into medical schools and law schools. So they were really being held back, not just on the athletic field, but in the academic areas as well. So he's the one that presented this idea to President Reagan and had it enacted. When we look at what values competing in sports gives to our young female athletes and myself as an older athlete, we really look at developing teamwork concepts, discipline, confidence, competitive drive, gratitude. These are all skills and values that they're going to need going into their college years and their professional years. For so long, women weren't in CEO positions. They weren't running companies. But now today, we can say to them, if you can see it, you can become it. We as Penn Staters, look at this alumni association we have. Penn Staters are everywhere and they're everything. And that's why we feel like with Teammates for Life, we can help leverage our own universities at Alumni Association to provide these mentorship and leadership opportunities. Let's take a look at what has been going on around our campus this past week. I think we have some clips. So while today is the day to celebrate women's and girls and women's in sports day, Penn State the past couple of weeks have been celebrating. They did a great job getting this logo out. Teammates for Life has been a part of supporting this event here on campus. Just this past weekend, our women's softball team had community day. So let's take a look at how that went for 500 people that attended this event. Do you have the sound? Okay, so let me just fill in here. Is the sound coming?
So whenever you go to share screen, you need to click. No, it's not this. You need to stop share and then start again.
All right, I'll let you guys, does that come back on?
So go back and share screen again. And then share sound. And then start. And then start power.
Here alongside head coach Clarissa Crowell on softball community day here. Clarissa, what does it mean to see this many people out here to support your team?
Yeah, I think it's a credit to our student athletes, right? I mean, they're here to see them, and I have to start with just our student athletes that have come before. You know, obviously they've set the precedent, and that's why a lot of people are here, for those who came before and for our kids that are on the team. So really excited. We have about 500 people that have signed up to come today, so just looking forward to a great day.
Shar. $500 people came out here to support the softball team for Softball Community Day. What does that say about the Penn State fan base?
Yeah, I think it's a great tribute to Clarissa and her staff and all the work they put into this, event to celebrate National Girls and Women's Sports Day. They've raised the bar. So I hope the other sports are paying attention, because we would love to see this every year for every sport.
And talk about the intersect between events like this and Teammates for Life.
Yeah, well, talking to the people that are here and seeing all the little girls, we want these little girls to, see the role models and see the mentors and say, hey, this is what I can do someday. This is what I want to be someday. This is where I want to go to school someday. So knowing that these opportunities are going to be out there for them is huge. And the other part of it is, we want these fans to come support our student athletes, and that's what really Teammates for Life is all about. Whether it's supporting them like in the classroom with mentorship opportunities or internships, definitely coming to the game and cheering them on. Yeah, you can see the t-shirts that were made up by the athletic department. See her, hear her, support her, challenge her, empower her. This is what our women's basketball team wore before they took up the court and beat Maryland that evening. Just really proud of the start that our women's basketball team has had this season. Big game against Iowa at Iowa on Thursday. So as you can see, we talk about how Teammates for Life is going to continue to support our women's programs here. But, we think about the milestones, the benchmarks that women's athletics has achieved. If we talk about Title IX, as we mentioned, we still have a lot of work to do. We look at the National Women's and Girls Sports Day that has been enacted for today. We got to recognize the women that have really forged that path for us. It's Billie Jean King. 50 years ago, she demanded equal pay for our women's tennis players. That's huge. 50 years ago, only 1 in 27 women were participating in sports. Today, it's 2 in 5. So when you just look through the benefits of competing in sports, our women's community now, as we have established with Teammates for Life, We are engaging, elevating, celebrating those successes of our female athletes. But what we want to do is take it beyond that. We want to take it from their university and collegiate experience into the working world. And so that we want to provide mentorship, leadership opportunities for them. We're doing a lot of great things at Penn State. We have created a Power Her Hour. So what we are looking to do is engage the women in our community, the prominent women on our campus and in our communities who have been so successful. We can use them right here in our own hometown to provide these different events that we're having. We had Kathleen Ryan, the CEO of Mount Nittany Hospital, brought a bunch of her doctors and workers, women from the community, Nancy Silvis, Nina Waskob, came to an event that we had called Power Hour, where we brought 30 women together and we brought 30 student athletes. And we sort of put together this program where they engage in a speed dating type format, learning from the women that have been successful, hearing their stories, listening to their journeys, listening to their missteps and their trials, how they forged ahead when times weren't easy. So Teammates for Life is doing a lot of great things to engage our community, our student athletes, with as I said, our the people on our campus and in this community. We're also reaching out to our alumni base. Okay, we're starting a networking program, a mentoring program. We would love for you to be involved in our Teammates for Life program. For me, it's not just let's connect our female athletes with former female athletes. As we know, Penn State has the greatest alumni association in the world. So we want you to be a part of our Teammates for Life effort. And again, that's all about engaging and empowering these young women to go on and be whatever they want to be. You know, we have a woman right now who is GM of a Major League Baseball program. That's unheard of. As I said before, years ago, you would never see that. Where we really need, again, to notice the, I would say, make sure that we continue to support our women's programs. You look at like Nebraska, they packed a football stadium to cheer on their female athletes. How great does that make them feel? TV viewership, again, is what we need. These little girls can sit in front of a TV and see their heroes perform all various different sports. The 2024 Paris Olympics are coming up, and we always know there's a surge in viewership. And really, our women's teams have predominantly just been outstanding at these Olympic events. We have our own field hockey team just qualified for Paris. We have one of our former players, Jenny Rizzo, who's been a goalkeeper on that squad, and we're hoping that we can go on and cheer her on in Paris this past summer. But yeah, I really believe that what we've done here at Penn State, we have been the pioneers because of women like Ellen Perry, Marty Adams, Della Durant, men like Tom Tate, Russ Rose. We really, celebrate the passing of Tom Tate, but he really put women's and men's volleyball on the map for Penn State University. So while we are celebrating National Girls, Women in Sports Day, we recognize that we need support from everyone. Let me tell you a little bit more about our Teammates for Life initiatives. We have a program that is called City to City. We are looking to take our female athletes into the cities, New York City, Philadelphia, DC, Pittsburgh, to meet with our former alums and these women who have become professionals, run their own businesses, work for big corporations, so they can show our student athletes this can be used someday. This is how it works. So we're also bringing those leaders, female leaders, onto our own campus. We had a Aspire Speaker Series this past fall. We had Jamie Parrow come in, who's a hedge fund manager from New York City, and really talk about what it's like to run such an intricate operation while you're a mom trying to raise two young teenagers as well. We had Jen Burtis came in. She's a former volleyball player. She was on American Ninja Warriors. She told her story about how she was dyslexic, came into Penn State, was so supported by Russ Rose and our Academic Support Center, and went on to become a personalized fitness instructor and spend 2 seasons on American Ninja Warriors. So inspiring to our young athletes. This past May, we're going to celebrate 1 year of the launch of Teammates for Life. Last May, we had 90 women show up to this first initiative to hear what we were doing for our student athletes here on campus and how we were engaging women in our community on campus and our alumni throughout the country. So really hope that you can help continue to uplift and support Penn State women's athletics. We will be celebrating 60 years in 2024. This fall, we're celebrating 60 years of women's athletics at Penn State. And like I said before, Penn State was one of the first universities to provide these opportunities for women, and they're still at the best doing it today for our student athletes. So I'd be happy to engage with some questions about National Girls and Women's Sports Day, Title IX, Teammates for Life. Really appreciate you supporting the National Girls and Women's Sports Day today.
Thank you very much, Shar. We have some questions coming in. First, we've all followed, many of us have followed the U.S. women's national soccer team and how they have really taken up the mantle for pay equity, right? And wanting to compensate the national team players for both men and women equally. What, in your opinion, what area needs the greatest improvement with regard to equity for women in sports? Like what is kind of the main driver behind pay equity?
Yeah, I think it is really that sponsorship, that viewership, getting the advertisers to buy into it. We're very fortunate right now. There are some big corporations that are supporting women's sports. Ally Bank is one. Another one, Deloitte. I just listened to a podcast on Caroline Fitzgerald's Goals podcast. And the woman that was speaking from Deloitte, she has a full-time job within Deloitte, which is a huge worldwide company that focuses just on how they can support women's sports. And they have predicted that this year, 2024, they're predicting that $1.2 billion will be generated globally by professional sports. So I think the more that we can support women's sports at that grassroots level, that we are cultivating these women to go on and take positions in those higher corporations. Amanda Gifford at ESPN, former Penn Stater. We need women in those positions that can make those decisions to support these women's initiatives. I think that's, and they're getting there, but, we absolutely do need more, right?
Absolutely. Thinking about kind of the history that you have experienced, right? Just within your lifetime and the evolution of women's sports. Was there any effect to the number or quality of women coaches coaching female teams when the teams transitioned to NCAA oversight? Marjorie Hoffman wants to kind of take us back to the days before the NCAA was governing women's athletics.
Yeah, so when coaching began for women, it was really tied into teaching. Really wasn't a full-time profession. And when I came to Penn State, thinking that what did I want to do? Where did I want my education to take me? I was thinking my options were pretty limited. They were, maybe I'll be a physical education teacher because I wanted to coach the sports that I loved. Full-time positions, that was not a profession for female coaches. And fortunately, the universities did step up and provide these opportunities where you could just coach and not have to teach. When I was in school here at Penn State, Jillian Rattray was my coach. She coached field hockey, lacrosse, and she taught like 6 classes. So she had a pretty heavy load. Today, obviously, the demands on the coach itself, schedules are different. We played 10 games today. You're coaching 25, 30 games. So it does require to be a full-time position. And I think that, again, Penn State transitioned very well from going to having our coaches be professors as well as coaches. When I came back here, I was hired as just the head coach for field hockey. Graham Spanier came in and felt that it was important for our coaches to teach in the physical education department. And so I taught jogging, strength training, and I have to say, I really enjoyed it. I loved the interaction with our regular students. I loved it. But then the demands on coaching just became too great. We joined the Big Ten. We're traveling across country. We're playing in the off season now. So I think that's, unfortunately or fortunately, the profession itself has really become a full-time job.
Yeah, you talked about it from the coach's perspective of losing time to do some of those things outside of the sport, like teach a class and interact with regular students. I would imagine the same can be said on the flip side, right? That your student athletes have less and less time to just be regular students, right? And interact in other organizations outside of their sport. What, in your estimation, does that mean for kind of the experience of the student athlete now in 2024?
Yeah, that's a great question, Paul, because what I really embraced and enjoyed, I love my professors here. Tom Tate, as I mentioned, he passed away recently, but Tom taught like kinesiology 404, and it was a bear. It was very hard, but you knew that you were coming out of there well prepared for your kinesiology, program. And just that interaction, the friendships that you made with your professors. I mean, I look at someone like Mike Foreman, who teaches sports and journalism, and, his students absolutely adore him and love him, and they have, contact with him. It's great. So I think because of COVID, we sort of slid into an online situation with some of them taking classes. Back then, it was the only way you were going to learn. Today, it's more out of convenience, but it concerns me that they're losing that personal interaction with the professor, who I feel can be very impactful for them, not just while they're here at Penn State, but, further in their future. But I'll tell you, the demands for our student athletes, you have so many people pulling at them. You look at our conference right now. We just expanded to the West Coast. The travel time, time away from campus. They're all concerns that I know Pat and Neely have to make sure that our student athletes here at Penn State will be able to have life balance. We'll be able to have time to themselves. That's the one thing for me as a coach. It was really important that I gave our student athletes time off in the off season so their brain could breathe and they could engage with fun and other activities that Penn State University has to offer that are so valuable.
With the changes in NIL and transfer portal, how has that had an impact on women's sports compared to men's sports?
I think it's just crazy to me after the basketball season ends and you look at who jumps on that portal. I think there's close to like 500 guys on that portal. The women have not really gone that deep into it, but I do know that some programs have greatly benefited by having a transfer. Maybe they're not happy at a school. I know field hockey, we had a couple transfers come in and be impactful. I see that with women's soccer, women's basketball. So I think there are sports where it has definitely benefited. I don't think you see as many of our female athletes wanting to leave Penn State. So I think in a positive way, what we're doing here by developing core values, such as just respect, competitive loyalty, gratitude, they're ingrained in our women's programs here. And I think that's where you see the loyalty of our female athletes staying at Penn State. But there's no doubt about it. You can impact your program with players that have more experience than just, freshmen coming in.
Yeah, just another question about NIL, right? You mentioned Caitlin Clark. You look at like Livy Dunn, the gymnast down at LSU, who are making now 7 figures as student athletes, right? And as female student athletes. But you and I both know that's not the norm, right? That's not the life of every of every student athlete. So from the women's athletics perspective, what does NIL look like, and kind of what is that impact on our female athletes?
That is a great question, because I know I was still a coach when NIL came on the scene, and I know Penn State had hired a guy, Doug Phillips, came and spoke to our field hockey players one afternoon, and one of our players raised her hand and she said, "I don't think anybody's gonna be paying me for my autograph," which is true. So we have to look at creative ways of how we can support these women athletes through NIL. I would say that, right now, we almost need a full-time person to work for NIL opportunities for women, because I think the focus really has been on the men. But Paul, that's what goes back to, if we want to continue to see our female sports close the gap between the men's sports, the pay, the salaries, the visibility, the TV time, then we're going to really have to look at, again, how we can support them equally. And maybe that is through an NIL initiative.
Yeah, I think about kind of just in my lifetime growing up in the 80s, right? Everyone kind of growing up, men or women, right? None of us, I didn't grow up with anyone who thought they would be a D1 athlete, right? Now you get into the 90s and into the 2000s, and every parent out there thinks that their kid is a D1 athlete. And it's not just, I want the full scholarship, it's I want the NIL package and all of that, which just seems to have really just made the coaching position more multifaceted, right? It's not just about X's and O's and technique. It's about, going out and recruiting students, and then, it's become about so much more.
Yeah, because you really have to find those players that are transferring that fit into your culture. They may be extremely talented, but are they gonna, understand the standards that you have set for your program for every player? How are they gonna, mesh with the team? When I came to Penn State, Joe Paterno had set the standard, right? It was academics, before athletics. That's just the way it was. If you have a seesaw and athletics was up here, academics was up here, athletics was here. Well, it sort of flipped a little bit, right? So we have to hold on to the values that we have as a university, academically and athletically, because we certainly, while we want the talent to come to our athletic programs, we certainly want to make sure that we're bringing in students that understand the importance of getting a university degree and what Penn State University can do for them, as well as the alumni base can do for them. So I think that's real important, that we don't lose the perspective between the role that the university plays in relation to our academic and our athletic experiences.
Yeah, I think of our wrestling program, I think of our women's soccer program, and you mentioned something earlier about culture, and going out and finding student athletes that fit the culture. You and I have talked about previously how culture on the team can, it's such a thing that can move a team from being, at the bottom of the Big Ten one year to being Big Ten champions the next year. And I know that that's something that you've experienced in your career. It's, one or two student athletes that don't get the culture can really have a detrimental impact on a team.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's where you as a coach, you have to make those decisions, because at the end of the day, one person really is not gonna, in my mind, if you're playing a team sport, you need everyone to support each other, and you need everyone to care about each other. And I think when I know that our coaches here, when they're recruiting student athletes, they're very transparent with, these are the expectations. We expect you to go to class. We expect you to work towards a degree. We expect you to care about your teammates, and then just the different rules, being on time, being respectful, show gratitude. So I think that's why Penn State has always done it very, very well. I don't feel that we have compromised our values for W's, right?
Yeah. What's the long-term vision for Teammates for Life?
You know, when I started this idea, I had seen it done at a couple other universities, at Louisville, at Oregon, at North Carolina. And I actually had noticed it during COVID. I had a little bit more idle time, right? So when I was looking at some of their websites, I was like, Penn State can do this. Of course we can do this. And honestly, we can do it better. Again, we've got the greatest alumni association in the country, the greatest support. We've had success in our female programs. So let's dive into how can we do this. And while I'd seen it done at other places, in my mind, my vision was the first thing that we need to do is create these relationships. And when I went to Pat Kraft, when I said, hey, I'm ready to retire from coaching, he's like, no, let's keep you coaching. I said, no, I'm ready. And he said, okay, well, now you can come work for me. I said, Pat, I know exactly what I want to do. I said, I want to start a women's athletic initiative. And he said, great, Shar, that you'd be great at it. You go do that. And so I got my committee together, which I'm very, very proud of. That was the first thing I had to do. Any good coach knows that you need to get great assistants and other that have different skill sets. So I brought Mary Beth Schmidt aboard, who is big advocate for Penn State Stewards for Responsibility. She had run her own PR firm. Elizabeth King is on my committee, VP at Starbucks, former athlete, softball player at Penn State. Lee Beard, everybody knows Beard Field for softball. Lee works in our women's philanthropy program here. Susan Robinson had just come on board, greatest basketball player in Penn State history, Naismith Award winner. She has just a great skill set, being a student athlete at Penn State, being a coach, being an assistant coach, a head coach, an administrator in development. So she's been incredibly valuable to our advisory board as well. Mara Pilowitz is a Penn Stater, was a cheerleader. 3 boys went through Penn State, athletics programs. She's worked a lot in career development. Tara Hohenschelt has really done an amazing job as our staff administrator, former lacrosse player, coach as well. And then Brandy Stewart is our our athletic liaison. So developing Teammates for Life, the vision was to how can we create opportunities such as mentorship, mentoring, networking, develop leadership skills, get our student athletes connected with each other while they're here on campus, connect them with our alumni base, our former student athletes, and also our entire alumni base. So when we first launched this, we first had the May event, 90 women showed up. We launched it back in August. The outreach has been overwhelming. And so what we really want to do is leverage our relationships between our student athletes, our alumni base, into professional opportunities of support. We want to continue to build our attendance here on campus at their events while they're on the road. How can we get the alumni chapters to get out there and cheer our women on, right? And hopefully provide internships at different corporations, as I mentioned earlier, get our student athletes out to these businesses across the country to meet with our amazing women that have been successful. So I just think we want this community to grow across the country and to really sustain these mentoring opportunities, networking opportunities, and relationships throughout their life. I look at myself right now, I am 66 years old. My best friends are Penn Staters. They're people that I met while I've been on this campus as a student athlete, as a coach, and now in this role for Teammates for Life. I'm meeting more and more Penn Staters, and every day is just so rewarding and inspirational.
Absolutely. What I love most about the program that you've just described is that you've actually started with the focus on the student athletes, right? It's on their personal development. It's on helping them build their network, right? Flexing the power of the Penn State network on behalf of the student athletes. I've been at other places, we've talked about this, where they've started programs like this, and it immediately started from the fundraising perspective, right? What I love most about, and fundraising is going to be certainly part of what you're doing, right? But I think it's going to be done in a way where, because you've built value on the front end, right? It's going to inspire philanthropy from the folks that are involved with our student athletes, which I think is just a brilliant strategy.
Yeah, Paul, that's a great statement, because that's where we're unique. That's where we're different from others. And again, I think it goes back to just, the experiences that we've all had on this campus make us so proud. We're proud Penn Staters, and, we want to just spread our pride, to these young student athletes. And again, they have the opportunity to elevate to these positions of CEOs and heads of a hospital, running a university, being a president of a university. The world is out there for them.
Yeah. One of the things that also kind of stands out to me about Penn State is the community that our coaches have with each other. I've been at places where, the baseball stadium is 3 miles down this way and the football stadium's across the river, right? And those coaches they barely even know each other, right? But it seems like there is a community that has been built amongst our coaches where you can pick up the phone and talk and pick Erica's brain or talk to Coach Franklin, right, about certain situations. That's unique in today's kind of intercollegiate athletic space. But talk about what it was like to kind of be around this community of people that were also the best in the world at what they did.
Right. How valuable is that? You have experts here right on your campus that want to share their expertise, what they're doing. When I came here, we would have head coaches meetings. Tim Curley was our AD, outstanding athletic director person. And we'd have it to Nittany Lion Inn. And they'd be 7 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And after the meeting, everybody would stay around, have a beverage, talk to each other about their teams, their family. So we really built that family, community. And, it's a little more difficult today because the coaches' lives with recruiting, you're recruiting internationally, you're recruiting across the country. With your practices, with your off-season training. So, I really try to work and get out to their offices. Yesterday, I was over at LB's office and saw Missy and Jeff Tambroni. How's everybody doing? Getting it. I have a great relationship with Keegs and Erica and Katie, and we need each other. The women just don't need each other. The men need the women need the men. Right. And, one of my best friends, Russ Rose, we miss each other. He's down there in Florida and I'm up here, but, we shared, a rec hall. And when we were together in rec hall, they were the best of times. They were the best of times. But you have to work out a little bit more today to develop those relationships between the coaches. We've had a couple of turnovers, and I've yet to meet the baseball coach. I'm really interested in meeting him. But, when you look at, you have Kale, as someone obviously that has just set that bar so high, and the values that he's instilled in his program. We're very blessed to have the coaches that we have on campus today.
Absolutely. If people watching are interested in learning more about Teammates for Life, where can they go for that information?
We have a website. They can go to gopsusports.com, go to feature/Penn State Teammates for Life. And if they hit the athletic button at the top toolbar, they'll scroll down and they'll see our website there. They'll see our newsletter there. They can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok. We're very, very fortunate. Teammates for Life has been supported by the Belisario College of Communications. Really grateful to Mike Porman and Marie Harden they have given us 6 female students, to work with Mary Beth Schmidt. She has like her own little PR agency, and they've been extremely influential in taking care of our social media. We have a program that's going to take place on Monday, a new program that we're starting called Winning Ways, Keystone State Network with Jim Galanton and Jeff Bowers with Fox Sports News Radio is at Fox Radio. We're going to go down to Cafe 210, 5 to 6 o'clock on Monday and listen to Keegs and Allie Brigham talk about their successful basketball season. They have drink specials, food specials. But yeah, if you get on the website there, and there is a place where they can sign up for Teammates for Life.
Excellent. Char, well, thank you so much for joining us on the virtual speaker series. Thank you for all you're doing for Penn State and for our women athletes here. Just a continuation of your legacy from student athlete to coach to now, I don't know, like life coach for all of these student athletes. It's it wouldn't be the same without you here. So I'm glad you've continued coaching in another way.
Paul, thanks for having me. You've been, such a great leader for our Alumni Association. Your enthusiasm, your passion is unmatched. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And I want to thank everybody for zooming in today on the virtual speaker series. If you are a member of the Alumni Association, thank you so much for your support. If you're not a member, what are you waiting for? Go to our website at alumni.psu.edu, and you too can become a member of the world's largest alumni association. Thanks for tuning in and for all you do for the university, for the glory, and for the future. We are
Penn State!